Is having a will enough? Well, I'm glad you tuned into this video because we're going to get right into it. I'm Evantz Saint-Gerard, your local real estate agent, and I got my special guest.
Vlad Portnoy, trust and estates attorney, elder law, Medicaid planning, and special needs planning in New York and New Jersey.
Vlad, we're talking about wills, and people always ask the same question: is having a will enough? So that's my question to you.
Well, that's a really interesting question because a lot of people say, do I need a will? And is it better to have a will or a trust? That also comes up all the time. So yes, everybody needs a will, and a will is a starting point, but it's rarely enough. For other considerations, will and a trust, for example, are not mutually exclusive. You usually need both. So you get a will first, get your feet wet, get a trust. Sometimes, a lot of times, we do it as a one packet with a will and a trust, at least one, depending on your needs. It would be either revocable or irrevocable, but the will itself is not quite enough, and it's a public document, and it has to be probated, and it has to go through surrogate's court. So it's better to have other things in play also with a will as a catch-all, as a backup.
All right, I'm looking at my phone because I'm getting questions as they're coming in as we're talking. What are some of the critical documents or tools that people should have in place when it comes to a will or a trust?
So we obviously, a will is, a lot of people say, I need a living will, thinking that this is the will. Actually, living will is a different document altogether. It's not the will that people are thinking about is called last will and testament. And it's a testamentary instrument used in court. That only takes over if someone passes. So if a person is incapacitated mentally, but they're not dead per se, they would need healthcare proxy, which is appointment of an agent to make decisions for their healthcare, and a power of attorney, which is appointment of an agent to take care of all of their non-medical needs, which includes financial, but it also includes a lot of other things. A living will is basically end of life instrument that says, do I want to be buried or cremated? Do I want to donate my organs? And it provides information for any burial arrangements you may have made. So our very basic package is usually will, last will, testament, or attorney, healthcare proxy, living will. That's the package.
All right, so what are the biggest misconceptions people might have once they create a will?
That this is all they need to do. They think that, oh, I have a will. It's in, well, where is it? It's in a drawer. Okay. And then when someone dies, we will just act accordingly. What that is, they have no idea. The reality is that the will has to be probated. The probate process, probate is from a Latin term to prove, and you have to prove a lot. Like this is the last will and testament, there was nothing after. That there is the denominated executor is who they think they are, who they say they are, rather, and that they're not the ones, the reason why the decedent is dead. So there's a lot of things, and you have to qualify. You can't be a minor, incompetent, and you can't be a convicted felon. So a lot of these things, and it has to go through the court. And depending on the county that you're in, it's a surrogate's court in each county. Depending on the county, it may take months, if not years, to get through. So that's a very complex process, and it's obviously not cheap.
All right, well, being that I know people are going to ask basically what the cost would be for a will for an average person, but obviously it's not one size fits all. It really depends on what your assets are and everything else that you have in place. So rough estimate, I would say around 600 to about 5,000, 6,000.
Well, no, it's that's a very broad range, somewhere in the middle. It also depends on where you are, because the same will in Manhattan in a large firm is going to be a lot more expensive than Brooklyn, Queens, and New Jersey. We do both, and we have pretty much a flat fee that kind of satisfies everybody, but it's all over the place. Like if you are someone who is a lifelong resident of a specific county in New Jersey or Queens or Bronx, you can have your fees, and a lot of times the fees probably would be less than others. It's so guys who've been and girls who've been around longer, since the 80s, 90s, they have one set of prices, but they also have one set of tools as opposed to anyone coming in new. So it really depends.
So basically, it really doesn't matter what the will costs. It really matters with who you're working with, who's going to draw up the will and explain everything to you in detail.
Right. And so the price ranges as long as you have a professional. Now, having a lawyer to prepare a will is also not enough. A lawyer, the common misconception is, oh, well, you're a lawyer, you must know everything. I don't know how to do criminal defense or personal injury. I never claim to be. So if you have a personal defense lawyer or a matrimonial lawyer or a real estate lawyer saying, I can draw up your will really fast, run.
It has to be somebody who specializes in.
Right.
It's the same conversation I have with my clients when they're buying and selling a home. I tell them they need to get an attorney who specializes in real estate. So the same thing would be for estate planning. You want to get somebody who actually specializes in estate planning, the law, or whatever the case may be, whatever you're looking for. That's why they specialize in that. You want to tap into the knowledge that someone like Vlad would have. Now, with that being said, I have one last question I had on this topic. Somebody asked, how can somebody know if they need a living trust in addition to a will?
Usually they do. So what is a living trust? A living trust means it was done during a lifetime of a person who is a grantor of the trust. That's all there is. As opposed to testamentary trust, that's a trust that's built into the will and may or may not come up from the will during probate in surrogate's court. Do they need a trust? It's always advisable, depending on what their problem is. First, trust, regardless of what it is a great way to bypass probate or minimize the amount of assets. The less assets you have going through probate, the easier and faster it's going to be done. Courts take large amounts of money very seriously. So if your estate is under 100,000, you're likely, it's not going to be, express lane, but you're probably going to spend less time in surrogate's court before you get your appointment than someone with even $2 million. Even though in New York City is like poverty-stricken person with only $2 million, but I understand. But $2 million is more than enough to have this thing being checked and rechecked and double-checked. Courts everywhere, especially in New York, especially in New York City, very touchy about these things, and you have to respect the process. You have to respect the judges. You have to respect the staff, and so you can't be, saying, well, my whatever my situation is, it's only 50,000, it's only 60, it's only 600, whatever it's only is, it's really not up to you or us, even as attorneys. It's up to the court, and we have to be respectful to the process. So yeah, we have to take all of that into account.
All right, so my last question, pretty much a piece of advice also. Would you recommend to someone who has a will or getting a will, should they be looking at this every year to update or every 6 months, or what's your piece of advice?
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. A will, estate plan, is a living, breathing organism. You have to review it with or without a lawyer even, at least once a year. You have to see if anything changed, because the things that could change are what's called major life-changing events. Death, birth, moving to a different state, getting married, getting divorced, having one child, having 15 children. All of these things are really indicative. If you're older and you're now not talking to one of your children, that plays a big part. So all of these things, anything, and you might not remember it when it's happening to you, but when you dust the will, if you go, wait, that changed. One of the biggest things, especially post-pandemic, is when people move into Florida from New York, from New Jersey. A lot of times the wills will work. Yes, but a lot of times they might not, because it's all of the documents are done under state law of each state. And if you move permanently to Florida, you should visit a local attorney and see what they say when they review your paperwork. Do you need to redraft it? Do you need to do a Florida compliant power of attorney? Not even a will. So a lot of these things you have to absolutely, and I know everybody says, well, it's legalese. It's not. It's not that big of a deal. It's all self-imposed stuff. Now the forms that we use are more people-friendly. They have a more humanized language. It is not what we would write in the ACE to confuse everybody that only we could read. It's actually very upfront and transparent. Review your plan.
Well, that's a perfect segue. The person who's watching this, or they forward it to a friend or family member. How can they reach you if they want to discuss this further, find out if the will, what they have, or they want to make a new will? How can they reach out to you to get all that stuff together?
Thank you for asking. We have 2 offices. One is on 34th Street and 7th Avenue in Manhattan, and one is in Hackensack, New Jersey, a few blocks away from the Bergen County Justice Center. So we serve Northern Jersey and New York City primarily, but we can go pretty much all over each state. And our phone number is or info@nywillsandestates.com.
Give me your social media handles also. Where can they find you on social
Yeah,
media?
search for, we are everywhere. So usually search for NY Wills and Estates and you will find us. At least you will get our, I can't think right now of anything that is not like that. I think our YouTube is like that. I think our Instagram, TikTok, um, and our
Link.
no link. Well, right, our website. I think our LinkedIn would be under Law Offices of Vlad Portnoy PC, and probably one of Facebook. Our Facebook professional page is under Law Offices of Vlad Portnoy PC. Either one. If you search for Vlad Portnoy, you have a 50 chance of finding me. There's another Vlad Portnoy in New York City. He is a banker. So if you see a high level, highly knowledgeable person who understands quantum physics and mathematics, that is not me. I heard all the good things about him, but it's not me. I do get calls from his dry cleaners if I want to pick up his suit, but that's not me. But there's only two, really.
Well, Vlad, I'm pretty sure people might find you on your MySpace page also, but we're not going to talk about that right now.
No,
But
no, 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 no,
anyways,
no, no, no. We're not. We're very not.
anyway, but seriously, just to stay on this topic, when it comes to wills, the reason why we're talking about this, I'm in real estate. This comes up a lot. People have questions when they're selling a property. Someone passes away. They don't know if there's a will, if there isn't a will. And so we always have these questions come up. So that's the whole purpose of these videos, just to educate people so they can start planning in advance before tragedy happens. So anything real estate related, you want to give me a call, you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm on all the social media platforms. My number is 917-975. Excuse me, I am a New Yorker, so I do talk fast. I'll slow down. 917-975-5985. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, pretty much all of them. YouTube. I can't forget YouTube. And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions about real estate, you have questions about wills, trusts, and estates, you give Vlad a call, give his office a call. You got questions about real estate, give me a call. Contact information. I'll give you my website. I always forget that. mynyhomesales.com. That's mynyhomesales.com. And all my social media platforms should be Evans Sells Homes. And it's spelled Evans. Actually, no, it's not spelled that way because everybody says it like that. But it's Evantz Sells Homes. And very simple. And if you have any questions about anything, feel free to reach out to us. If you have questions that you think will be good topics for us to talk about on video format, let us know. We're always open to suggestions. I'm Evantz Saint-Gerard. I just want to say thank you for watching and feel free to share this with your friends and family.